Welcome to this month's conversation in Wellness Intelligence. I'm Lisa, and I love bringing good humans together who are doing more of the right things, resulting in fast-forward learning for all of us. Each conversation in Wellness Intelligence, we dive deep into one micro topic that might just change your life. Today, we're deep diving into eating and drinking when we are not at home. Can we really go out, socialize, and eat and drink well? Casual, fun, and solutions-focused, even when the topics are serious. These are conversations. They're judgment-free, open-ended, with no ulterior agenda. We are not prepared for this. We're just having a conversation. I hope you will leave this hour with us with a little more wellness intelligence and a feeling of confidence that no matter where you are and who you are with, you can eat and drink well. So welcome, all of you. I'm so happy you're here. Megan and I are used to inviting a couple people to a conversation in Wellness Intelligence, not so many, and also two of my children. So Ryan,
Hi.
Joey, thank you for being here. Ryan had a food blog when he was 8 years old for 10 years. So he used to do talks called Eat Healthy and Feel Good About It. And Joey is my kid who has a food allergy. So they actually, I would say, raised me for this conversation. And then Terry, who is a dear friend, and if you've spent any time in the Wellness Intelligence Collective, you're familiar with her. But I'm just going to say she's the award-winning cookbook author and a food educator, but it's that she has a whole lot of common sense and love within her. And Katie, who works with the power of food. She is being interviewed as a Good Human of the Week, so you can read more about her, but also Reiki. So it's not just about food. There's a whole lot of energy that Katie puts into her work as well. And Amanda, who has been a client, and from the moment that I met her, I would say common sense. It's like real and no bullshit. And if you read anything about me, it's like, that's what I'm attracted to. So Amanda, I appreciate your realness and everything you put forward, and not modeling with fancy green smoothies that take a year to make and longer to photograph. That's everything. And Lani, who is my farmer's market buddy and a mom of two little girls. And I would say, as crazy, which I'm good with, as I am, Lani makes me feel like normal when it comes to food. Like, I buy crackers, she makes them. So it's like, I love that about Lani, because there's a talent that she has as a chef in the kitchen, where I feel like she's like a food engineer, but with all of the best ingredients and intentions. So that's all of you. And Megan, of course, who nothing happens with, but Megan and I don't matter as much. And I'm going to try and not talk and listen more to you guys, because when reasonable people come together, hopefully there's going to be a lot of takeaways for people. This conversation's a result of a member named Sandra, who's like, tell me what do you do when you eat out? And I find that I have this conversation and I repeat it a lot. And if you know what wellness intelligence is, it's about wellness in all 8 dimensions of wellness, which you can read about. But social wellness is one of them. So it's not about counting calories when you're out or maintaining your strict, whatever it is, there could be a compromise without abandoning yourself, and maintaining social wellness while you do that, which means you're confident and also you're not bothering other people, which is something that I've been very good at. So I'm just going to start and saying, Terry, I'll start with you. One tip for people when they're going to a restaurant to eat well.
Can it be just breathe?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because to think about this, if you're thinking about it for the first time, I think like just picking off, checking off little boxes one at a time helps. But it feels like it's been a journey for me. And so, there are many places that I don't even consider going just because I already know what happens in their kitchen. And but I also I like to see what people are doing, and sometimes I like just reading the menu, even if there's nothing for me on it, and being with the people who are there. And I don't know, there's always something I can find. But I feel like the going and the sharing and the being with people and seeing what other chefs are doing and feeling whatever it is they're trying to put into their food, that's to me more important than the food. So just breathing and allowing yourself to enjoy that time out is like the most essential thing to me.
I love that. Amanda, I saw you nodding. So what do you think?
I mean, I totally agree with that, you know, to be in the moment and to be with the people that you are at the restaurant with, and, you know, appreciating, you know, what the chefs do and the ambiance and everything like that. I absolutely adore, you know, being in that environment. But I would also say, from my perspective, I would say not being afraid to speak up. You know, if you do have allergies, if you do have needs, you know, maybe you want something to be cooked in olive oil, maybe you want this, don't be afraid to speak up. Like, you're paying for this at the end of the day, and you're allowed to speak up. So there's your permission slip. I always give that to my clients, and I say, use your permission slip. You're allowed to ask for what you want and need.
I love that.
You.
I love that. So Amanda, on that, I'm just going to go off of restaurants a lot. What about speaking up when you're going to somebody's home for dinner?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the same thing stands. I really do. I think at the end of the day, you know, if we're not there for ourselves, who's going to be there? So I'm really all about that if you do have dietary restrictions, you know, say something. You know, I feel like people are in the know these days, and a lot of people ask, but also offer to bring something, you know, and bring something that works for you too. So there's a few ways to kind of negotiate that, I would say.
Fantastic. That's been one of our strategies, was always like, bring food. It was always like, you bring food for your family to eat because we can't feed you. It was always a line, and it was like, no problem. But we would show up not just with food for us, but enough to share with everybody, hoping that it was like, if they like that dish, that maybe it could be, you know, better next time.
Totally.
So Joey, I'm going to, because Amanda spoke about speaking up, and that's like not optional for you. What do you have to say about that? Restaurants or going to someone's house?
Well, it can definitely make me nervous to speak up sometimes. So if I am going to someone's house, even if I don't say something before, it's always important to like ask questions and just like, yeah, just be curious about whatever. And then obviously, if you can, speak up beforehand. So
and because Joey's not always she hasn't always been comfortable speaking up, what was your bag full of?
Oh, so many snacks and bio raw salads I brought with me to every event that I could, because it was just easy and delicious.
So that's a life and death situation for Joey. So it was always like, you knew that it's like pre-eat something so you're not depending on the other person, right? And have that bag full of food. Okay, so Katie, because you would be more, I would say, more discerning. Katie's not going to compromise when she goes somewhere. What's your advice?
Yeah, so I would say be lovingly discerning as opposed to like military strict. It's more of just a loving choice because you love yourself and you want to feel good, rather than I can't have that, I can't have that. It's more like I choose to have this because I want to feel good. For me, I mean, one side of the family, to be honest, there's like not one thing on the dinner table that I would touch. So I just bring something. I bring like one dish that could be even a full meal, even if there's nothing else, that I could eat that one meal and that would be filling. So for example, maybe like a hearty quinoa salad with a tahini sauce or something, like fresh herbs. I could eat that and be fine as that being a full meal or something. And then sharing with others, like you said, bringing extra. And yeah, I don't like put others down for what they're eating. It's more of just like, no, I'm eating this because it works for me. And like, yeah.
And hopefully you get to share, right? The soba noodle salad that could be served warm or cold is like our mainstay staple. People know that we always go up with a huge thing of soba noodles.
We've eaten a lot of soba noodles.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Up here too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we have that recipe in the Kind Food Studio. If you guys want to add any of your excellent travel take to somebody's home for a potluck that can serve as a side dish for some people or a whole, please add them. Lani, do you eat out at restaurants? And if you do, what do you do? You're on mute.
Sorry, my phone was ringing. We do eat out at restaurants, not too much. As a chef, I always find I'm disappointed when I leave the restaurant. I'm like, I could have done that better. Or you just didn't do that as well as you should have. But I am celiac, and one of my kids is plant-based, and the other one is allergic to dairy. So I don't really have a particular dogma that I follow. And I find sometimes, just like everything else in life, how I feel about things changes daily. Certain things really I'm super focused on one day and then not so much on the other. So I always pre-feed tiny people before we go, in the event that, you know, they just, I mean, they're 6 and 9. I can't really just know whether someone's going to freak out or not, or whether they're going to be easily swayed by what's on the menu. So much like Joey always has a gigantic bag of snacks, as do I. I have like a Mary Poppins bag of edible options. But with restaurants, I always do my research. So if we're going out with friends, I know my audience. If I'm going out with people that know what we're like, and understand it, which is a huge piece. People mostly think that I just don't eat anything. They're like, but you're allergic and they're allergic. So like, you guys just eat plants. That's all you eat is plants. Like, okay, no, that's not all we eat. Thanks. So I do my research. I'll call the restaurant and be like, hey, this is what you're dealing with. Can you accommodate it? If they can't, I simply do my research to find another one. But typically you can always get a giant salad or a plate of veggies. My eldest is really picky. So when we go out, I have like a little bottle of her favorite salad dressing, and she can have a salad and I put the dressing on and it's fine. My little one likes all meat. So I choose restaurants where I know that the meat is something that I can get behind and I can respect their sourcing, which is not as hard as it used to be, which is really refreshing.
Yeah. So Ryan, once again, I'm going to go to Ryan for that, because Ryan started his food blog when he was 8 and he's now 22. So 14 years ago, I just remember Ryan making phone calls to a restaurant. And if it met criteria, he would be like, yes, we have somewhere to go out to. So Ryan, the questions you would ask.
Yeah, well, I would ask about their sourcing of their ingredients, whether the stuff was organic, whether they get it from local farms, specifically the meat and dairy, which is always much more important to, like, not that produce and everything isn't important to be sourced well, but meat and dairy is usually where stuff will get sketchier. So a restaurant might get all local and organic produce, but then they get their meat from like food service. And then it's like, oh, well, then what's the point? So you always have to ask about everything. One thing I learned that I kind of, fought my mom a lot on back then is no question is too insignificant to ask. Everything matters, which is a big theme. But yeah, you got to ask every question about where they source their food from, because it's important. And when you're going out in a group, something I've found, over the last number of years as I've gotten older and, gone out on my own with friends, like it's much easier if you're going out with a group of people who doesn't really care about what you're eating, if you pick the restaurant that you're going to, because most of the time the people you're going out with will enjoy eating whatever. And that way they don't have to watch you like either eat nothing or eat a salad instead of a proper meal. So, if you can pick that, and then, it's been talked about already, like going to family gatherings, bring stuff for yourself and for everyone. My mom has taught me well on that. Going
Yes,
anywhere.
I did something right. I love that. Thanks.
Well, I also want to second what Carrie said. Sometimes you can't find the best option or the perfect option or the one that fits, ticks all the boxes. And you just kind of have to breathe, accept it, and it's going to be okay.
And you
Just-
always have choices. So if you do have that magical bag of snacks, or if you've pre-eaten something, knowing that you're prepared going into whether you're going to a wedding or you're going to a dinner party, you're going to someone's house or to a restaurant, just like nourish yourself beforehand so you can focus on the social aspect rather than the food aspect. That's right from that. Terry's waving.
That's what I wanted to say is like going out to eat. I hate to say it, but it's not about the food. It's about the interaction. It's about being with people. It's social, whether you're going to your own family's home, whether you're having people in like that. I think it's really important for me to keep that in mind. And when I'm going out with people, myself included, but like, if there are people who don't understand what my needs are, or if like my daughter, much like you, Joey, her partner is allergic to like 65 different things. He carries 3 EpiPens on him at all times. And it was so interesting for me to hear you say like that sometimes it's hard to ask for what you need, or you feel badly about asking for what you need. To me, it's like, I think that, I'm a chef, but I'm not a restaurant chef, but I'm just going to go out there on a limb and say that chefs want to serve, right? And they don't know who's eating and what they need unless we ask. And when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to get feedback that what you're doing isn't perfect. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, like, geez, we had 3 people ask for no vegetable oil today, or we had 3 people who were celiac. Like, I think that then they're able to take it in a less threatening place. And that's what creates change. And that's what creates this shift towards there being more places that we feel that we can eat. I mean, I remember I used to go into my local grocery store and I'd be like, I really want to buy apple juice, but like, I need it in a glass bottle. And they're like, yeah, we can't get that because it's too expensive and it breaks. And I'd say, okay, thank you. And then the next day I'd go in and be like, oh, do you have any apple juice in a glass bottle? And they're like, oh my God, here comes the glass bottle woman. And then the next day I'd be like, I really would like the sunflower butter in a glass bottle, right? And guess what? Like, they carry things now in glass bottles. And, one voice is, it makes some noise, but like multiple people going in and asking for what they need, that like creates a lot of
Well, it's also everything. We've had a conversation in Wellness Intelligence about like paraquat in your oatmeal and glyphosate in our food and all of these things that are out there. And right, Megan, like the answer is always like, just if you ask. So I always say it's like messaging a restaurant on social media and asking the server and saying to the hostess, those are all different touch points. It's not you repeating. They're all different That's great. So yeah, Katie's saying like love calling restaurants and having that conversation. I want to go to you, Joey, because Terry said something about, and Katie, you mentioned that you don't like preach or lecture on what you're doing. However, there's that time that I know that Joey, we've had it where it's other people actually attacking you for being difficult, or this is so hard, right? Going into their space. So dealing with that, Joey.
Do you mean like with friends and stuff, or?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, for sure. Something I've realized, like, as I've gotten older and like found new friends, is that there are definitely the friends that will bash what I'm eating and make fun of it, because I would sometimes we would bring like leftovers from dinner to school, and we would have like taco bar the night before, and we would have a bunch of different dips in a container, and it doesn't really look good, but it tastes delicious. And all my friends would like make fun of me for that. Or like one time on my birthday, like I had friends come over and we made popcorn with nutritional yeast on it. And all my friends were like, why are you putting yeast on your popcorn? That's so weird. But then they tried it and they all wanted to like, they all wanted the recipe afterwards. So yeah, I don't know. It can be very difficult when like people are like trying to make fun of what you eat and whatever. And it definitely has gotten to me before, but I think that I've realized that as I grow up, like the people that I want to surround myself with aren't people that I have to explain why I'm eating this way. They're people that are more like curious to maybe try that, or just indifferent to it, like don't care, like, okay, you do your thing, I'll do mine.
Which
Yeah,
is
when I was in grade 5, I would bring kale chips to school all the time as part of my lunch, and people were like, "Why are you eating grass? Like, what the hell is that?" And I'd be like, "Here, try one." And they tried it, and then it got to a point where I was like, anytime we had like a class party or whatever, everyone would be like, "Bring kale chips," like, and they all like absolutely fell in love with them. So yeah.
and right.
People are naturally closed-minded, but if you open their mind and you make them like try stuff like kale chips, even at a really young age where, they may be eating like total crap all the time, they're going to love it.
So, Rye, it's a good point. And also, I'm going to ask you, just based on what Joey said too, about friends, because we all have that, right? Katie, it's like so nice if someone lets you do you, as you said, Joey, right? Like where it's Terry, it's like when we go out for dinner with friends, if that's a thing, they're always like, you choose the restaurant. It's just going to be better off. Like there's no point. And so that's so nice feeling like it's not extra work for me. It's like, thank you for not making me go to a restaurant. But Ryan, I had asked you once, do your friends make fun of your food? And what was your answer?
I don't remember what my answer was.
Oh, come on. I should have set this up. See, this proves that we do not prepare. But I said to Ryan, he was maybe in grade 3. And I said, are people making fun of your lunch? Because I think that's, Joey was struggling a lot with food. And Ryan said, well, are they my friends if they're making fun of me? So it's when you're going out. And so Ryan, see, it was a good answer. You should remember that. But
I'll remember that.
But when you define your social events, that's maybe something that I just want to highlight, that who are you socializing with? Like, why would they be giving you a hard time about eating a certain way if you're not bothering them about what they're eating, right? So it's like, you can feel free to do that. Who are you socializing with? Don't you want that space just to be respected the same way that you're going to be respectful? I think that's important. Terry, you have something to say on that?
Oh, always. I mean, it's interesting to me because it depends where you are, certainly developmentally, like where I shouldn't, not you, but where the others around you are. But nobody's making fun of your food because your food is make fun worthy. They're making fun of your food because they feel threatened, or because they feel like they don't fit in, or it threatens something in them. And the people who are willing to stick around and be vulnerable and learn, they may never want to eat the same thing. But I don't know, my experience is the more me I am in the choices that I make, and the more I talk about the choices and why I'm making them, just so people understand that there's mindfulness to it. I think the more the easier it is for everybody around me to support me in that. And for me, I mean, it turned into a whole career. So, being the crazy person who eats the kale chips, 9 out of 10 people looked at me like I was crazy, but for every 10, there was one who was like, can you tell me about that? Can you show me that? Can you show me how to make that? Right. And all of a sudden it actually became my career. So whatever it is, I think that it's just really important to remember that people's reaction isn't about you. It's about them.
An amazing point. And it's Joey always said, Joey snapping. That's like, obviously, but it's Katie, how do you feel about that? Because I know that you have such, your family isn't necessarily someone who's going to accommodate you, and you're always smiling and lovely.
Yeah, I love what Terry just said. Basically, maybe it's easier for someone to point a finger at someone else rather than to look at themselves and what they're eating and admit that it might not be the best for them. It's maybe easier to just poke fun at someone else. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point. And something that I do want to say is that, and I'm saying this because I love you all and whoever is watching this, and I care about, your health and the betterment of the planet. So just know that no one is force feeding you. So even if you are in an environment where there's unhealthy treats, or there's whatever cooked in whatever oils or jello or whatever it may be, know that at the end of the day, you have the power of what you put in your body. You have the power of what you prepare beforehand, of what you eat beforehand, or what you bring. And just know that, you know, half-assed commitment gets half-assed results. So for me, I feel like I went through stages in my healing journey where I was kind of half-assing it, or I would cheat a lot, or like, and I wasn't actually fully healing. And then when I fully commit to my health and my healing, and actually really more so honored eating the foods that are actually contributing to my healing instead of hindering it, that's when I actually finally got results. So I just think it's important, if you do truly want to heal and you do truly want to feel good, to honor that and give that to yourself, because you deserve it. And it is so worth it. It's not worth, 2 seconds of heaven in your mouth if it's going to make you sick and give you a headache or stomach ache all the rest of the day. It is not worth it. So
it's so important. And thank you for articulating it that way too. And the one thing is, you talk about 2 seconds of heaven in your mouth. I can honestly say that I never feel restricted in how I eat, whether I'm socializing or not. I never feel restricted. So it's not like I wish I could put that in my mouth, but I won't, because I'm committed to my health. It's like, all I see is I'm like, that's like glyphosate and seed oils and crap salt. I'm going to feel like crap after. So you learn that a couple times really quickly, where you're like, breathe. And it's like, I'll just have the mushrooms. That's what I did at a restaurant this summer. We were out in and both my husband and I, we were not feeling well afterwards, and all we had were mushrooms. So you know that it must be like the oil or the salt or something, because that's something really simple. And we had pre-eaten, and people were like, you're only having mushrooms? And it's like, it was a beautiful plate of mushrooms. And it's like, just, we're doing us. That's what we feel good with, and carry on. Amanda, what do you have to say on that, on the existing with other people, compromising yourself?
Yeah, no, I think again, I think you should do what works for you ultimately. And I do think, a lot of things have been said here, the reality is, when somebody's looking at your plate, I always say, put it back on them and say, keep your eyes on your own plate, it works in life too, right?
Or this is so good. Have you ever tried, instead of putting it back on them, to even maybe encourage, you're curious?
Exactly. You can divert
so
a little bit.
I love these noodles.
Exactly. So I think, again, I agree with everyone, not compromising yourself, doing what works for you ultimately, and doing you. That's what's most important, really.
And thanks. And Lani, because that's also, we all have sort of different ways of, moving around life. And I know Lani with 2 little kids, that's also something that Joey with her allergy, I also felt as a mother, it wasn't someone else's responsibility to feed her safely. It was mine. And it was my job to teach her to manage her own, food in her own way, because it is like, I think Terry, you said that, it's a lot for somebody else to take on. It's like panic. It's like, oh my God, I'm having them over for dinner and I do not want to kill their kid. She's really cute. And just understanding that a little bit of almond oil in the wrong place actually could be game over. So it was always like, don't worry about it. We're not coming for the food. We're coming for the social aspect. We would always bring something, and just know that it's not insulting. Like, we're not going to eat. Do you know what I mean? That stuff. So I'm going to put Megan on the spot, because I want her to speak, because Megan has a 6-year-old and they're in Mexico, and they go out with, making new friends and finding new community. And Aiden, their sweet son, has grown up to eat better than probably all of us. How are you dealing as a mother with a 6-year-old going out where there's lots of the candy on the beach?
Candy on the beach. We've had so many conversations about. It's even this morning before school, we talked about candy on the beach. It's hard. We go to the beach for family activity, for healing. We eat before we go out, and then there's a man with a wheelbarrow full of candy, and all the kids run to it, and it's like, scoop your candy in the bag. And it's not the first time we've had a conversation about candy, so that helps. It's just reminding him about why we eat what we do and why we don't eat what we don't, and reminding him about the treats that we are so fortunate to get to enjoy. And so now I'm prepared, and I bring things to the beach as well.
But tell the story. I have to put you on the spot about him, because I think this is an important point for kids or for someone else, that sometimes curiosity is really important to follow. So Iden was bugging you about candy. All the kids are having it. So we're talking about socializing. All the kids are having it. And Katie, you haven't had that experience yet where it's like, I'm going to feel poor after or whatever. So
yeah, so
you let him have the candy.
We did let him have the candy this one time where everyone that we were out with, all their kids ran up and they were all given money to go buy some candies. And so we've had the conversation so many times. He went up and he chose his candies and he tried them. So he comes back with this little bag and tries a couple, and he was so sad because he's like, they're not good. It's like, Mommy, why aren't they delicious? They look so good. And so that was a beautiful lesson in itself. And I'm really glad that we said yes to that opportunity, and that he had that realization.
So good point. So Lani, have you ever done that before? Like let the kids have something? And
Yeah, for sure. Riley, my eldest, is of strong mind. So she has a lot of opinions, and she's like a female Ryan, just later, born a little later. Anyway, like her birthday party was at Chocosol because she wanted a chocolate birthday party, and I hunted, and they were all like, oh, we use gourmet. I'm like, you use El Rey.
for those of you who are not in Toronto, Chocosol is our local excellent chocolate maker. Let's just call them excellent. Meets all criteria of empathy, economics, and kind food.
Yeah.
And the chocolate is excellent.
Yes. So we had this party. I had reservations because I was fairly certain that 100% of the children in attendance would be like, what is this brown stuff that looks like chocolate but doesn't taste like the chocolate that I eat? And I was like, I was proven correct, but I was a free-for-all. I let the kids eat whatever they want. And Riley typically has chocolate every day after dinner. She eats her dinner and goes, Mom, it's that time again. I'm like, sure, go grab a piece of chocolate. She has not asked for chocolate in like 3 weeks. I think she filled her quota for 2022 in like one evening. And every other kid, when their parents picked them up, they handed them their cup of their loot bag was all the chocolate that they made. They handed it to them and they were like, you can have this. Parents are like, this is delicious. I'm like, so
I just want to circle back on that, because your point is also, it's like the same as Megan's. It's sometimes that curiosity and going after something and trying it. You have your own experience and then you get to make your own decision. It's not your parents making that decision for you. So I like brainwashed my kids that the ice cream truck was called the chemical truck. And that was like what I thought in marketing was the best technique, which maybe it wasn't, but I did call it the chemical truck to the point where I think it was Andy, but he
It was Joey and I mostly kept things like that to ourselves. Like we weren't walking around school going, oh, the chemical truck. But like Andy in like kindergarten, when his teacher was like, why aren't you eating the desserts that for this kid's birthday party? And Andy would just be like, because there's chemicals in it.
Right. So it's like the third child, I forgot to put the filter on, but that's a different story, different conversation. But I guess when Ryan was in grade 6, the ice cream truck came up to school. He was at a brand new school, and a friend of his who was a new friend said, like, do you want an ice cream? Ryan had never had it, right? And this friend bought him an ice cream, and Ryan came home and he was crying because of a few things. Number one, he sort of lied and cheated, right? Like it was like, and he bought the ice cream, and like Iden with the candy, Ryan said, it wasn't even good. And then I threw it out because it wasn't good. It tastes like chalk. Why do people eat that? So I guess the whole thing is back to Terry, what you said about breathing. It's like, if you eat well and you're honoring yourself and you know why you do, and that's what you do, then like breathe and do what you want. Your body's going to talk to you and tell you, it's like, that did not go well. And there's only so many times you're going to give yourself that lesson before you show up and do what's right for you, which is different for all of us, right?
Yeah, but let's just be really clear, like do you is freaking hard sometimes. It's
Yeah.
really hard to just do you. Like, I know who I am and I know what I want, and I have a whole career. So like most people who know what I do, they know what I do want to eat and don't want to eat. And yet, you can still go somewhere. Like, we were at friend's house just recently and I loved it. She ordered in. I'm like, you didn't, like, they were so relaxed beforehand because they had bought everything from the restaurant and brought it in. It was like, it was a good note and entertaining on like how to enjoy the evening yourself. And I thought it was awesome. And yet there were like all these things there and they're like, oh, did you taste this? And I'm like, oh, I didn't get to that. Like the fact that I am as established and mature as I am and still need to make excuses and still have people who love me say, did you taste this thing that, I mean, in theory, we know 100% you don't want to eat, and two will, is really bad for you, right? Like,
Right.
and yet it is damn hard to just do you. And
Absolutely.
so I just think like the more we put out there what we need and what we want, and the more people are able to support us, like we need community. Like, I just think that's the bottom line is we need community. It's not easy to go the path on your own.
Oh, that's the point of this gathering too. It's not like I'm telling people you can go out and you can socialize and eat well. It's not Ryan telling people what he did. It's not Lani. It's not any one of us. We all have different sort of perspectives and angles and different, I call it, whether they're boundaries or breaking points of what we're doing. And they all feel right to us. And we're not imposing them on other people. It's like, here's strategies. And by the way, the thing that as a mom, again, and Joey, how good does it feel when somebody would look at you? It's like, everything's nut free. I read every label and everything's good. And they looked at you in the eye. Like, how great did that feel?
I mean, it always felt really great. Like a huge smile would come onto my face. Like I couldn't control it the same way. Like if I couldn't eat it, like you could tell by my face sometimes, like as much as I tried to. But yeah, when people would take care and like actually let me know, or like even if they just put aside a couple items and said, there's cross-contamination maybe on this stuff, but there is like nut-free stuff over there that you can eat. Like just a little bit of thought always made me feel so good.
She would talk about it for days. It'd be like, that person's so nice. So the alarming thing on that is, why does it take so much to consider the people that are coming into your space? So the same way that you want to be treated when you're out, host the same way. So the socialization. So when someone comes into my house and I know that they're allergic to sesame, I'll make sure if there's tahini in something or there's sesame in something that I always label it. I always tell them, or I just won't make it if it's for a small group, and make sure that everybody can be relaxed and happy, not as relaxed as the takeout people, because being cooking the whole time, right, Terry? But, and it's such a joy to eat with people when there's no tension or conflict or questions too. That's a really beautiful thing. Lani, where do you eat besides home that makes you the happiest with other people?
Well, my preference is always to eat with people at their homes rather than a restaurant. It's like multifaceted. Number one, I can hear them. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I turned 40 and I became deaf and I can't do social gatherings. Like, it's just too much. And then I can always bring something. There are a few restaurants we go to, the standards I set for what I deem acceptable for consumption are actually different than Zach's. So I try to respect and not judge. The judgment piece, it's very hard to contain when you know the origin of your food, and it matters. Like, all that you say, question everything. Everything matters. So how it's grown, how it's shipped, where it came from, is it in season? Is it, like, my 6-year-old will ask people, is there dairy and are there pesticides on it? And I'm like, good for you. And people look at her like, oh, haha, you're so funny. And I'm like, she's serious. Like, answer the question. Like, So I'm always happy to go to people's homes. We go to like a couple restaurants around town. Like I know you have one near you. I texted you when we were really sick in November and I was like, where can I get food? I'm dying.
Katie and I talk about it all the time. It's like, can there not be a restaurant that's really great to go to? And it's like, even if you follow Terry on Instagram and she'll post that she had like pizza somewhere. And I'm thinking, where is that you went out and you were so happy that you posted it online? Because I want to go there. So it's like, I'll travel. Like I have like certain places that I want to travel to on my list because like of one restaurant. When we were in Austin, we ate at a food truck that advertised huge on the side of the truck, no seed oils. And the kids were making so much fun of me because I was so excited that they were like, no seed oils, like you can eat this food. That's like exciting, right? To be able to go out and socialize and not be in charge of the food. So I want to ask Katie, if you're going to a wedding, like a 300 person wedding, and what are the instructions that you give before you go?
Yeah. Okay, very good question. I would honestly just eat beforehand and bless it, because you can raise the vibration of the meal by sending that intention to transmute whatever doesn't serve you and to amplify all the goodness that's in it. Not to say that you should eat McDonald's every day and just bless it. Don't get it twisted. But I, even to that wedding a few years ago, I brought a chocolate bar and like I had it in the car. I was like, just in case I'm tempted for the sweets and stuff, which you don't know what's in it. They don't have ingredients list or anything. So who knows what they put in there. So I had that kind of backup plan. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Joey, going to a wedding or a big party?
It can definitely be scary. Even if you put on the RSVP, if you have an allergy, I'm gonna say definitely still ask when you're there. I had a small run-in at my cousin's wedding, which was not fun. But yeah, just
You
always.
left in an ambulance and she's fine. That's the end of the story.
Yeah. But yeah, just always keep asking questions. Like, just because you put RSVP that you have a nut allergy or that you have specific food restrictions doesn't mean that they're not going to serve you nuts.
And actually, a good reminder is, I learned this in marketing, where it's like you ask someone, oh, is the package going to come tomorrow? It's so easy for someone to say yes. Instead, ask a question that does not require a yes or a no if you have allergies. So not, is there dairy in that? A lot of people don't even know what dairy is, who might be, the person might be answering you. Ask, what is in this dessert? So Joey was told that everything was nut-free at the whole wedding because this cousin knows Joey, and it was like, she just wanted Joey to have a good time. So it was a beautiful, like the bride creating a whole party that was nut-free, knowing that she wanted Joey to feel free and easy. Beautiful intention. And it was the one time Joey did not ask the question. I was served dessert. I took a bite and I was like, I looked at Rob and I said, there's nuts in this. And 2 seconds later, Joey was like, I ate nuts. So we left early. It was the earliest we'd left a party. And, but the point is to ask a question that's not yes or no, because asking, are there nuts in it, is so easy for someone who's serving 300 people just to be like, I mean, I didn't even really hear a yes or a no. So ask your question that requires an answer. And if they don't understand, they'll get somebody. You can wait a few minutes to eat. My trick for going out to, I used to say that I was vegan because I wanted no industrial animal products anywhere near me. And it was like I could compromise and transmute energy in the spinach or whatever it was. And I quickly realized that when you say that you're vegan, you get white pasta with red tomato sauce on it. So we are eating like the worst kind of refined carb with tomato sauce, which is mostly sugar and whatever else. For any of you, I don't even know what's in it, but say not food. So then I started doing vegan, gluten-free, and you get a quinoa in pepper. It's a stuffed pepper with quinoa, much better. So then people would be like, oh, it's like vegan, gluten-free, sugar-free. And it was like, you got a salad without the dressing. You would get the stuffed pepper. And you know what? It was enough to have on your plate where you could be social and breathe. And it's always nice when they serve and they say, this is the so-and-so, like with the allergy. Good service in any social setting restaurant. That's what I find. They will always tell you that it's prepared. It was prepared special, like here's the salad with the nut allergy. And when they do that, you know that there's care coming from the kitchen in a different way. Just
And also when you're going to a wedding or an event like that, just eat before because, you know, you're going to get that salad, you're going to get that stuffed pepper. You might not end up even wanting to eat it, or it won't be that filling. Like it is always a good idea to eat beforehand.
Yes. And take snacks in your purse. What's your
Show
favorite
up with
snack?
zero expectations.
Do you ever take snacks when you go out, Amanda, or when you travel? Socialize?
Absolutely. Yeah. I always recommend. I mean, for myself, I always take stuff. Absolutely. You know,
What
I
do you
would say-
take? What do you take? Give us
What do-
one or two things.
What do I take? I would say like, I mean, I don't have an allergy to nuts or anything like that. So I would say like nuts and seeds are a great thing, like making yourself a trail mix, putting it in a little mason jar or something like that, and always having that around. Such a great thing, of course, if you don't have allergies. And I would say things, you know, like bars of some sort, maybe like a midday square or something like that. That's also a great thing to have around as well. It's dense and, you know, it keeps you full, I would say.
I'm like on the total other camp. I don't know, a bar, a bite, all those things just make me want more food. I feel like, oh, I had a snack and that whet my appetite and now I want more. And so I always feel
I'm with you, Terry.
the day before, I'm like, I'm gonna make extra dinner because whatever's left over, I'll put that in a mason jar. And now I feel like I have a meal. Like, and people will look at me like you're eating roasted vegetables and quinoa and it's cold and it's got some pumpkin seeds on it. But like, yeah, I am. And that feels like a meal to me and satisfies me. And so I feel like I'll throw anything in a mason jar
I love that.
resembles real food. Cold soup, like I'm not really that picky. I just want it to be good. And sometimes my cold leftovers are better than anything else I can get anywhere else. So
Exactly. I love it.
Love
Katie.
it.
So a few quick snack ideas for running out the door. Like even if you don't have time to make a salad, just grab like a massive carrot, not a GMO massive carrot, but like an organic massive carrot, and like a cucumber and maybe some nut cheese if you do nuts. Even hard-boiled eggs, you can boil those pretty quick and put it in a thing. I love liquid nutrition because it's easy to digest and it gives you a lot of energy. So making something like smoothies or elixirs, and you can keep the elixir in a thermos and it'll stay hot for several hours. Make a quick miso soup in the morning, takes 5 minutes to make, and put that in your thing with sea veggies and, you know, some kale, and if you like mushrooms, you could add that in there, add the miso in last and not to kill the probiotics. So the little things like that I grab when I'm running out the door that help.
And it's, if you're listening to Katie and you're like, that sounds like a lot, she just said it so easily because it's now practice to her. And like anything else, this is a practice. Like socializing and maintaining eating well is a practice like anything else in life. Like until you start doing it and finding your way, what's right for you, you're not going to be there. Joey, your favorite snacks they used to take in your purse with your EpiPens?
Well, I mean, I ate them too much, so they're not as good anymore, but Herbaland protein gummies, that was a big one for a while.
Go Raw bars.
Yeah, Go Raw bars, that was good for a while. Chia squeezes, I also really like. Yeah.
So those are things that we always kept in nude food, olives, straight up fruit, Katie. So there were always things that I kept in stock. So it wasn't like, oh, we're going out and I forgot something. I want to grab something on the go. It was always Terry. I've been to Terry's house, so I know that she stockpiles also. If you have the space and the privilege and fortune to be able to buy multiple things at one time, there's certain things that are great. I mean, I love this just happens to be on my desk. It wasn't even planted, but I love these. These are somebody else made them and it's just food. It's just, they're cheesy. It would kill Joey, but it's Brazil nuts and nutritional yeast and it's on nori. And so it's so filling. It doesn't actually make me want more food. And so I'm grateful for the few snacks that are packaged snacks that other people make that are amazing. And Go Raw is an amazing company in the US that I love what they do because they're also nut free. So they're nutrient dense and nut free. They're great. Lani, favorite snack to take with you?
So just reiterating what you said about my crazy before. So because we make most everything homemade, I just put everything in little like stasher bags and the kids can just grab something. But I mean, my kids are little, so they like, you know, the Zigo bars, the fruit ones. My kids like those. We're really a zero waste house, so that's kind of hard for me, but I do in certain, sometimes you just need to make your life easier.
Yep.
And how we choose our food in this house, the principle is, I don't like the word healthy. I try and stay away from it. So we just use nourishing food versus sort of something that doesn't really nourish your body. But Maggie really likes, it's not in Canada, but the Paleo Valley. Maggie really likes these meat stick things. They're like fermented, grass-fed, pastured. So we always have those. I just really like taking my little bags of my crackers that I make and some kind of dip.
Right. So it's, you know, the thing that I hear about you people who are excellent chefs and always cooking is really that you want real food on the go. You still aren't choosing a packaged food, which is so great. And Mick and I share this snack guide, and we always put our snack guide, and it gets sort of smaller and smaller. I've been putting it out for years and years, and it gets smaller because I sort of realized it's like, oh, it's like, that's a lot of waste, right, Lani? It's like either a lot of waste or like Terry, it's like, I can sort of make it better myself at that point, even though my kids are always like, it's not actually as good, but it's still, I think it is. That's
my personal favorite snacks. I'm like Terry. I don't like to snack on things that I open and shove in my mouth. That's not what I really enjoy doing. So I'll just take whatever little jars are in the fridge and I just fill up a mason jar of whatever. And that I enjoy that. I will take that with me. And like, especially with this weather, you can kind of put anything in your car. You can just, and it'll last, like a container of hummus and some veggies, and it's fine all day. Some cheese, and wherever I am, I can just grab stuff. But I don't like to eat the.
So I want to bring everyone sort of together too. The common theme is, I guess we all agree with pre-eating. Yes. Like we're all in agreement. Pre-eating is.
I'm only sort of in agreement there, and maybe I'm just showing my own neuroses, because sometimes I'm like, I go to grab.
Love when you do that. I think it's really important to show your neuroses.
Sometimes I feel like I'm grabbing a snack or I'm eating because I think, oh, I'm going to be out and I need the energy. And the answer really is like, maybe I don't. And do I really need to eat anything? And do I need to have anything with me? And what would be so awful if I just didn't and came home several hours later and made a really good meal? Like, I think like I personally feel a little conditioned to this snack, like that I'm supposed to have a little fuel sometimes or have something on me healthy in case there isn't something else. When like, if I were hungry and I didn't get to eat for another hour, like it wouldn't be the worst thing to just be hungry and come home and make a good meal.
And is that maybe because you also nourish yourself so well all the time? So you have.
Well, that's like a pipe dream, but
but it is relative to, I'm saying when you take care of yourself well, right?
I think it's more just like when I think for me, it's a little bit of tipping the scale in the wrong direction, in that I'm thinking about food and I'm thinking about food prep, and I put so much thought into it that sometimes it kind of takes the front seat when it doesn't need to. And
great point. So the focus on the socializing or the going out rather than what happens if I'm hungry.
Yeah. Or like, you know what? I mean, we all have enough food. Like, I'm not going to go hungry. It's not
the idea of scarcity.
Yeah.
Like the scarcity complex.
Yeah. Like, I know I'm the first person to grab something, and when I grab it, I'm like, why am I grabbing this? Or I'll throw something in my mouth from like a couple of bites of whatever, roasted vegetables, like because I'm going out. Well, really? Like, what was that about? Like, so sometimes I just think maybe the best prep is no prep at all, is just going about your life and living your life and saving the meal prep for when you have time to put the care into it. Like we said, everyone, I think all agreed, like, whatever you eat, like, bless it, let it nourish you. But, the flip side of that is true. Like, who knows, maybe those mushrooms, maybe it, like, the server was like, yeah, this person doesn't want anything on the menu and just asked if they could have 2 plates of mushrooms. And the chef was like, this is BS, and cooked all that bad energy into it. And maybe the mushrooms were totally fine, but all that bad energy is what made you feel kind of yucky afterwards. Who knows?
Absolutely. And agree. And we talk about that all the time, the energy in the food and what you can do about it, but also how your actions are going to affect that, right? Where you just want to, going back to your first thing about breathe. So Amanda, what would you say if somebody said they're going to like 12 holiday parties, but they're on this, protocol, or they're trying to stick to it? What would the advice that you would give them be?
Well, I think it's really situational, obviously. It depends. But I think, a lot of the things we talked about here today, amazing takeaways, bringing your own food and sharing with others and opening them up to a different world that maybe they have no idea about. And they'll probably ask you for the recipe. They always do. And eating before, if that works. And also bringing a little stash of things for yourself too. And maybe giving your body a break, maybe not doing that. So I think it's just super situational. But I think, again, staying true to you and what that looks like. And if you have to rehearse that before, because sometimes I spend time with my clients doing that, rehearsing, saying no, putting those boundaries out, it's important. Have a few lines that work for you when somebody offers you something. Rehearse those before, give yourself some confidence.
That's so fantastic. Thank you for saying that. And I don't know if you saw, but Megan smiled huge. And it's because we almost made it to the end of a conversation in Wellness Intelligence without somebody saying it depends, but you win, because that's what I said. It always comes down to, it doesn't matter the question that we ask. It really does depend. And that's what these conversations are about. It's like listening. Everybody's giving their advice. It's like a bunch of reasonable people having an open-ended conversation, not a debate. And it's whatever you take away from it is going to be hopefully helpful to you in moving forward and focusing on social wellness while you actually nourish yourself.
Absolutely.
Terry, go ahead.
We spent an hour talking about food, but I could have sworn that it was food and drink. We never talked about drinks. So I really look forward to coming back and talking about that side of the equation too.
The specifics, but it does cover, it's like, I guess, you're right. We talk about food and drink, the same thing applies. So it's going out. If you are going to, I just want to say my thing. It's like, if you're going to drink alcohol at a restaurant or at a party, avoid the mixers. If you're going to. So it's important to be as discerning with your drinks as you are with your food. That's with everything, right? We just want to question everything. Empathy economics. That's what Megan and I spend a lot of time talking about. And when we weigh it down, whether you're buying tampons or soap or a chocolate bar or eggs or bread, it's the same care. It's trace it back to where it came from. And if it feels good, then eat it. And that goes to your point, Terry, about the mushrooms. It's what's happening in the kitchen really matters. It's not just organic mushrooms, but where did they come from? And all along the plate, like what happened to them before they arrived on your plate? And then how do you consume it? And who are you consuming it with? Right? That social aspect. So any last words from anybody about sending people off socializing? Ryan?
Be comfortable with who you are and the way you eat. That's very important. Don't be afraid of doing it in front of other people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate all of you, not just your time and energy, but the smiles and the kindness. Megan and I talk about a lot how we really know nothing. Like, it's like the more we learn, the less we really know. But the one thing that I am sure of, I really am sure, is this world needs a whole lot more open conversations, people just talking and listening and being enthusiastic about what they do and having that space held in. So I could have this conversation with you guys all for days and know it would always be eye-opening and heart-opening and enjoyable, and that has set me and my day off really well. And I hope anybody listening feels that way too and reaches out to each of you for whatever reason they might, because they have access to all of you and you have access to everybody else. And here's to community. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.